Heroes Battle, Spider-Man vs. SpongeBob SquarePants, Chapter 1. The meeting of heroes. Spider-Man was patrolling the streets of New York City when he noticed a strange, yellow sponge walking towards him. The sponge was wearing square pants and a bright red tie, and he seemed to be in a hurry. "Hey there, Spider-Man!" the sponge exclaimed, stopping in front of him. "I'm SpongeBob SquarePants. It's great to finally meet you." Spider-Man was taken aback by the sponge's energetic and upbeat attitude. He introduced himself and asked SpongeBob what he was doing in the city. "I'm on a mission to find the best burger joint in town," SpongeBob exclaimed, bouncing up and down. Spider-Man couldn't help but laugh at SpongeBob's enthusiasm. "Well, if you're looking for good food, I know a place that makes the best pizza in the city," he said. SpongeBob's face fell. "Pizza? But I'm not a big fan of pizza. I love burgers. I can show you how to make a Krabby Patty," SpongeBob said excitedly, pulling out a cookbook from his backpack. Spider-Man was intrigued. He had never heard of a Krabby Patty before. "Sure, I'd love to learn," he said. And so, Spider-Man and SpongeBob spent the afternoon making Krabby Patties and swinging around the city. They talked about their respective superhero powers and the villains they had faced. Spider-Man even taught SpongeBob how to shoot webs from his hands, much to SpongeBob's delight. As the sun began to set, Spider-Man and SpongeBob parted ways, promising to meet up again soon. Spider-Man couldn't help but smile as he swung away, thinking about the unexpected encounter he had just had with the energetic sponge. The first trials. It was a peaceful day in New York City, but suddenly, a loud explosion shook the buildings, sending people running in all directions. Spider-Man quickly swung into action, making his way towards the source of the commotion. As he arrived on the scene, he saw a giant, robotic squid attacking the city. Spider-Man tried to fight the squid with his webs and spider powers, but it seemed invulnerable to his attacks. Just then, he saw SpongeBob SquarePants making his way towards him, blowing a bubble as he ran. "SpongeBob, what are you doing here?" Spider-Man exclaimed. "I heard the commotion and knew I had to help," SpongeBob replied. "Plus, I've got some tricks up my sleeve." SpongeBob blew a massive bubble that covered the entire squid, trapping it inside. The squid struggled to break free, but SpongeBob summoned a horde of sea creatures to hold it down. Spider-Man watched in awe as SpongeBob showed off his unique abilities. He swung around the bubble, firing webs at the squid and dodging its tentacles. Together, Spider-Man and SpongeBob fought off the villainous attack, with Spider-Man using his spider powers to weaken the squid and SpongeBob using his bubbles and sea creatures to trap and immobilize it. As the squid began to retreat, Spider-Man turned to SpongeBob. "You know, I never thought I'd be fighting alongside a sponge," he said. SpongeBob chuckled. "I never thought I'd be fighting alongside a spider," he replied. The two heroes exchanged a fist bump, their first trial as a team successfully completed. Chapter 3. Joining forces. After their successful battle against the robotic squid, Spider-Man and SpongeBob sat down to discuss their next move. They knew that if they wanted to take on bigger challenges, they needed to join forces and work together as a team. SpongeBob was the first to speak up. "Spider-Man, I think we make a great team. But if we want to be successful, we need to recruit some more heroes to help us out." Spider-Man nodded in agreement. "You're right. I know a few people who could be a big help." The two heroes set off to recruit their new team, starting with their mutual friend, Patrick Star. When they arrived at Patrick's rock, they found him snacking on some chips. "Patrick, we need your help. Will you join our team?" SpongeBob asked. "Sure thing, buddy. What do you need me to do?" Patrick replied. The team continued to grow as they recruited Sandy Cheeks, a scientist named Dr. Octavius, and even a reformed villain, the Green Goblin. With their team in place, Spider-Man and SpongeBob felt confident in their abilities to protect the city. They spent hours strategizing, coming up with new tactics and plans for any situation they might encounter. But as they sat around the table, brainstorming ideas, they couldn't help but get a little silly. SpongeBob started drawing a picture of the team as superheroes, with himself as Bubble Boy and Patrick as Chips Man. The team erupted into laughter, with even Dr. Octavius joining in. "I've never had so much fun while also discussing serious matters," he said, wiping tears from his eyes. With their spirits high and their team assembled, Spider-Man and SpongeBob were ready to take on any challenge that came their way. They knew that together, they were unstoppable. Chapter 4. New friends and enemies. As the team continued to protect the city, they began to make new friends, both human and animal. Spider-Man befriended a stray cat who would often follow him around on his patrols, while SpongeBob made friends with a family of seagulls who he would often visit at the beach. But with new friends also came new enemies. The heroes were faced with a powerful new villain named the Octopus, who had 8 mechanical arms and a brain as big as Dr. Octavius's. The octopus wreaked havoc on the city, causing destruction wherever he went. Spider-Man and SpongeBob knew they needed a new strategy if they were going to take him down. They enlisted the help of their new friends, including Captain America, who agreed to lead their team in battle. Sandy Cheeks used her scientific skills to create a new weapon that would disable the octopus's mechanical arms, while Dr. Octavius built a new suit to help Spider-Man withstand the villain's attacks. As they faced off against the octopus, the team was determined to win. However, their plan hit a snag when Patrick accidentally dropped a bag of chips onto the villain's head, causing him to stumble and nearly knock over a building. "Patrick, what are you doing?" SpongeBob yelled. "I thought he might be hungry," Patrick replied sheepishly. The team couldn't help but chuckle at Patrick's mistake, but they quickly refocused on the battle at hand. With their new plan in place, they were able to defeat the octopus and save the city once again. As they walked away from the battle, Spider-Man turned to SpongeBob and said, "I don't know what we would do without our friends." SpongeBob smiled. "Who needs enemies when you've got friends like these?" Chapter 5, The Final Battle. The final battle was upon them, and the heroes knew that this was their biggest challenge yet. The villain, known as the Planktonator, was a mad scientist who had created an army of robotic plankton that were wreaking havoc on the city. Spider-Man and SpongeBob led their team into battle, determined to stop the Planktonator and save the city once again. The battle was intense, with robots exploding left and right and the city skyline being transformed into a war zone. At one point, the Planktonator himself emerged from his secret lab, riding on top of a giant robot shaped like a giant Krabby Patty. SpongeBob gasped in horror. "That's my face!" he cried. Spider-Man, seeing his friend's distress, stepped forward. "Don't worry, SpongeBob, we'll take him down." The two heroes charged at the Planktonator, their team backing them up. They fought fiercely, with Spider-Man using his web-slinging abilities to swing around the robot and dodge its attacks, while SpongeBob summoned his sea friends to fight off the robotic plankton. In the heat of battle, things got a little chaotic. The Hulk accidentally knocked over a building, and Iron Man had to use his suit to hold it up. Meanwhile, Patrick had wandered off to find some snacks, and ended up getting stuck in a vending machine. But despite the chaos, the heroes persevered. With a final, coordinated attack, they were able to take down the Planktonator and destroy his army of robots. As the dust settled, Spider-Man and SpongeBob looked at each other, grinning with exhaustion. "We did it!" SpongeBob exclaimed. Spider-Man nodded. "We make a pretty good team, don't we?" SpongeBob smiled. "You know what they say, Spidey. Teamwork makes the dream work." The two heroes parted ways, promising to keep in touch and to come to each other's aid if needed. As they left the city, the citizens cheered and applauded their heroes, grateful for their bravery and determination in the face of danger.